There is this mod for Medieval 2 Total War, for people who can't afford to buy a good computer and probably the 3 Total War games that Creative Assembly releases with all its DLCs. It's called Call of the Warhammer, Beginning of the End Times. In this mod, you can play as 30 different factions. There would be more, but Medieval 2 Total War was hard-coded to only fit a specific amount of factions and units, so the game doesn't have the sheer amount of different factions that Warhammer Total War has. Still, I don't find these things a large issue since it has an extensive roster of units to begin with. My favorite faction in this mod, as you can probably guess from the title and thumbnail of this video, is the Vampire Counts. Unlike more conventional factions like Reichland, Hochland, Middenland, and so forth, your faction does not have any capability of fielding ranged units besides Empire Archers and Necrarch Mages in late game. But this is not a huge drawback to this faction in my opinion, since you have the most practical unit in this game. That unit, my dear viewers, would be the Skeletons. They might not have the best stats, but these units have 3 key strengths, which are: number 1, unbreakable. Being undead means they lack fear, so they will literally fight until the last member of a unit is destroyed. Number 2, near limitless stamina. Of course, them being powered by the winds of magic means they don't build up fatigue in their muscles, owing to the virtue of not having one in the first place. You actually feel like you're playing the undead due to this reason, unlike in a certain game. Number 3, free upkeep unit. Added with the fact that the graveyard line of buildings also add additional free upkeep slots, means this unit is always tactically advantageous to keep around for increasing public order, which in turn means you get to tax your subjects more without them reaching for the pitchforks. If I were to describe my playstyle of this faction, it would be akin to fighting people with water. A bucket of water isn't exactly the most threatening of items, but an entire ocean will drown armies. Of course, if you have extra gold, it doesn't hurt to recruit extra generals with Black Knights to serve as the hammer to the skeleton's anvil. 2 good things about using general bodyguard units as cavalrymen instead of normal Black Knights is because they recover on their own. Even if you do manage to get one killed in battle, it won't ruin your chances that much, since your skeletons don't rout anyways. This seems all well and good, perhaps even broken, but here is where the Vampire Counts have their shortcomings. They only get command stars at night time, so even though you tend to be able to outnumber your opponents, there is still a case for bringing higher quality units to further shift the odds to your favor. Another important thing to keep in mind is that, since your troops are unbreakable by default, it is within your best interest to commit morally dubious acts, such as exterminating entire towns or executing prisoners to maximize dread gain. In terms of location, you start with 4 settlements. 3 are located in Sylvania, and 1 is just a castle called Upkeep, right between the Wood Elves and Visenland. I am not very fond of keeping settlements that are way too far from my faction capital like this, so I tend to just disband any units that can't fit within the free upkeep slots and forget that the place even exists. Meanwhile, your location in Sylvania is rather safe, since dwarves in this mod are perpetually poor, and you are surrounded by rebel factions instead of more dangerous ones. To build your economy, you first need to destroy any building within your settlements that produce human units. Human units are not as economically sound nor strong enough to be worth considering within this faction, so demolishing them is a good way to earn extra gold for more useful buildings. After demolishing the buildings, here is how I decide on which buildings I should build for my economy. Number 1. Prioritize building things in cities. Very important because you can set taxes up to very high, unlike in castles. The fact that you don't get unique castle units as well makes cities a lot more preferable to keep. Number 2. Pick the buildings that offer raw gold per turns, like both the normal market and the slave market line of buildings. Then go for the city hall line of buildings. Number 3. Prioritize the cheaper buildings. This is more of a personal choice, but in my opinion it is better to build a cheap grain trader that costs 1,500 gold in a different town than to build a 2,500 gold market in a place that already has a grain trader. If I've already built both market and slave markets of the same tier in all of my settlements, then I'll go for the city hall in my city that produces the most amount of gold. Number 4. Build the graveyard line of buildings. After your economy is as good as it could possibly be, you then should focus on building this. It indirectly boosts your faction economically since you don't have to babysit border towns as much. AI units tend to think twice before trying to assault a city full of skeletons. Number 5. Should you find yourself being full with gold, the last line of buildings that I would build is the Blacksmiths. These buildings increase the survivability of your skeletons, and that is a good thing to have. You will get the most out of this building line if you stop at the armorer level of the armorsmith, since I'm not sure if anything higher could actually be of benefit to your faction. You could always go for extra buildings like cairnstones and the like, but the sheer practicality of skeleton armies really does seem to be the optimal strategy in the end. That is all I can say for this video. I hope it was amusing. Leave a comment, perhaps even subscribe if you like this video. And finally, have a great time.